Good evening. Welcome to the Derick and Doni podcast, The Pulse. Another good evening to be with you good people. And as always, as my good friend always say, we thank the Creator for giving us
Bless the Lord.
Whew, man, and it's been one of them days as we talked earlier. So prayers up. There's been some loss to a couple friends of ours out there, but prayers up, man. And I'm just thankful to be here, man. Thankful.
Yeah. It's like I just got off the phone with Conan, man.
Okay.
And he told me his brother died. And he was telling me the story of how the last time he saw his brother gave him a puppy for his birthday.
Okay.
Yeah. Bring him on in, Dad.
Bring him in?
Yes, sir. Let me see your skills.
Let's go.
Put the cursor over top of him.
And just hit add the stream. Gotcha.
All right, let me get a little light here.
All right.
Right.
Mr. Davis, good evening.
My brother, how you doing, man?
Well, we call him Delegate Davis, or they call him Tiger. Tiger, that's paying homage to him. And I got to caution you.
Thank you.
Let me slow you down, West Side. He's a Dunbar poet.
Oh, listen. Hey, respect, man. Respect.
Amen.
Respect. Mr. Tiger Davis, respect. This guy.
Right. Thank you for that, my brother. Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you for spending some time with us, young men.
Well, you know what it is. Well, when a fellow poet called, you respond, right?
Yeah.
Brought my crap, man. But look here, I just got off the phone with the National Steering Committee we pulled together to get that Congressional Medal of Honor for Dory Miller. Okay, because he should have gotten it December the 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. But, it was a lot of racism. And so we're going to try to bring that home now because the Congress lady, Eddie Bernice Johnson from Texas, she knew him as a little girl because Dory Miller was her father's friend. Okay, and she remembered when he went to sea the last time.
I just got my Navy hat. I was in Annapolis today, and this is in honor of my granddaddy. He was in the U.S. Navy.
Excellent.
Well, he could have joined the military, man. But the Navy had
on one hand,
one of my left hooks, boy.
Derick, on one hand, he paying homage to Dory. He paying homage to Dory. Dory is the greatest black hero in the U.S. Navy.
Yeah. So, we're going to try to bring that home, man. And in fact,
well, hold up, Tiger. You done just took over. How you doing?
Man, listen. My wife turned 80 years old today.
Happy birthday!
I'll be there in a couple of months in September. I hit 80.
Oh, God.
But next week, next Tuesday, on the 29th, will be 64 years ago. I gave her that friendship ring.
Wow.
At Dunbar High School. We've only been married for 57 years.
Wow.
But we've been together for 64 as of next week.
So y'all haven't even got to know each other too well yet, huh?
Not really. We're spending more time together now than we've ever done. And so she gets pissed off that I'm still out here working.
That's good stuff.
Especially since I don't bring no money home, right?
For those who do not know, Derick, let me just tell you that this is our former delegate from East Baltimore. And I guess I've known him a good 20 years or so. But in that time, in my book, for instance, Derick, I Am Black Wall Street, Tiger Davis told me that there's no way I could talk about Black Wall Street, Black business history, and not mention, I want you to catch this, Derick, a man named James Forten, Forten, out of Philadelphia. James Forten was probably a millionaire by today's standards. He owned a sail company that he bought from a white man. He was not a slave. He was born free. And Derick, we talking about, what was it, the 1800s, right?
Yeah, 1790, 1800. He was the wealthiest man in Philadelphia, which meant he was one of the wealthiest men in the country, because Philadelphia was where all the money was. It wasn't New York. Back in that day, it was Philadelphia. James
Fortin is in this book. He said, there's no way I could talk about early Black business history and not mention this man in Philadelphia who owned a company that was also, he hired white people. White people worked for him.
That's right.
And this is this is Revolutionary War, right, Tiger?
Well, in the Revolutionary War, he was captured in a prisoner of war at 15. Wow. And the commander of the prison camp wanted to send him to England to go to school with his son because he saw how bright the kid was. The kid told him, no, I'm a patriot and I'll stay with my comrades. And so he stayed with the revolutionaries in that prison camp. Then afterwards, he became an apprentice at the cell making company. And then he came up with a lot of new inventions, but eventually he bought the company and then turned it into one of the wealthiest businesses in the country. He financed all the public buildings and that stuff in Philadelphia, financed the Underground Railroad and all the civic improvements. Wow. And it took Philadelphia to 2014 to recognize him, man. You know, and hey, George, I'm on a call.
Actually, so, Doug, we got a legend here.
I'll get back to you, okay?
That's an understatement, Donnie. That's an understatement. A legend. Are you serious? The history lesson that I just received in this short 3 minutes. I'm telling you, this is good.
He ain't even got started, man. He ain't even got started.
Let me give you this quick statement, right? Because this is my opening statement on Dory Miller. In 1851, William Cooper Nell, in his dissertation, Services of Colored Americans in the Wars of 1776 and 1812, stated, there are those who will ask why make a parade of the military services of colored Americans. He then criticized the combination of circumstances which have veiled from the public eye a narration of those military services of colors, which are generally conceded as passports to honorable and lasting notice of America. That's how I open it up now, okay? Now, I close it up by dealing with the public knowledge that the Secretary of the Navy, William Knox, he stated this. Secretary Knox was able to deter the advancement of African people and the U.S. Navy, preferring to keep African-American sailors in the steward's branch, relegated to servient roles. Major General Thomas Holcomb, the Marine Commandant, said African-Americans had no right to serve as Marines. He then added, if it were a question of having a Marine Corps of 500 whites or 250,000 Negroes, I would rather have the whites. Now, that's why Dory Miller didn't get the Congressional Medal of Honor. Wow. Because those were the prevailing attitudes at that time. And Admiral Nimitz pinned that Navy Cross on him, right? But see, the thing is that they've always wanted to keep African Americans out of the limelight in the military service. And then when the blacks came home, the white folks was warning each other like, hey, them niggas been over there in France. They gonna come here, want liberties, and they ain't gonna want to go back to that plantation work. You know, and that's what it was.
I need you to slow down.
All right, let me let you get your show started, man.
No. France. You talking about World War I, right?
Yeah. But
that's when that man
always.
Right. But in World War I, the black soldiers they were given their French cross, right?
Yeah, they fought in French uniform. And you'll hear terms like the red hand and all that kind of stuff, right? But remember,
Tell them why.
huh?
Tell them why.
Well, let me go back. All right. The U.S. did not want blacks to be serving in combat. And what they did, the French, they gave that 370th division to France. France put them in French uniforms, gave them French weapons, and them brothers were the greatest warriors France has ever had. Okay. Many of them won the highest medals in France and all of that, right?
They gave them French girlfriends too, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, look, they took jazz to France, man. I mean, this is why France became so inundated with jazz, because of them brothers.
The man his last name was Europe. The black man last name was Europe.
That's right. You on it. That's right.
He led the band, the music.
Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Look,
and so those military guys then started playing in clubs over there, right?
Yes, they did. But they was also fighting in them trenches, and they won the highest honors that France could give. Look, one of the things we don't know is the colored separate troop from the Maryland National Guard. That unit received the Cross de Guerre from France.
That's the Cross de Guerre.
Yeah, Cross de Guerre. They received it. The unit as a whole received it. Now, that unit, the lineage has evolved into what's now called the 231st Transportation Truck Company. And you'll see them around with the maroon and gold jackets and stuff, man. But the thing is, in this country, they've always tried to hide those extraordinary services of African people, man. But from day one, you had more than approximately 9,000 blacks who fought for the British. About 9,000 fought for the Americans.
Hold up. There were blacks fighting for the British on American soil.
Yeah, the British promised them freedom. This is the Revolutionary War. The British promised them freedom. And the brothers broke loose from them plantations.
That's the Revolutionary War.
Yeah, 1776.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So look, Doug, you got to know about the first Rhode Island Regiment too.
Yeah.
The first Rhode Island Regiment was mostly black. And Tiger, they say that some people say that the first Rhode Island,
black, if I remember correctly,
that they tipped the Revolutionary War.
Listen, we have made a difference in winning and losing all of the wars of this nation. Okay, but now, what happened to them guys, okay, that fought for the British?
Oh,
some went to
Nova
Caribbean.
Scotia.
Yeah, they sent some up to Nova Scotia. The group that went to Nova Scotia, Thomas Peters and his crew, then ended up founding the modern-day state of Sierra Leone. Okay.
So that's where the British sent blacks formerly enslaved.
Right.
They sent them back to Africa to Sierra Leone.
No, they went to Africa on their own.
Oh, they went on their own.
Some went to England, chose to go to England. This is why now you're beginning to see all these flicks about England. You look like look, they got a whole lot of blacks in all of them, right? Going back 200, 300 years, right? Because now they're telling the truth.
And then blacks from America went back to Liberia. I just wanted to make that point.
Yeah, they went back to Liberia, but don't forget, Sierra Leone has just as much relationship to America as Liberia.
How so?
Because
I never heard that.
Yeah, look, Thomas Peters, who chose to fight with the British, took a contingent to Sierra Leone, and they founded the modern day state of Sierra Leone. He's the father of Sierra Leone. Just key his name in, Thomas Peters, and sometimes they will call him a loyalist. Other times they would call him as one of the black pioneers or Lord Dunsmore's Raiders and all that stuff. Because remember now, I turned away from law school to study blacks. Because look, what the hell is sense of me going to law school? There ain't no such thing as law. There's only power. Hey, and if you got enough power and money, the law don't mean shit to you, right?
So this is Women's History Month, and I'm gonna put Cathay Williams on the table.
Who?
Cathay,
the Buffalo Soldier girl.
Cathay Williams.
Yeah, the Buffalo Soldier. The only
she dressed up as the man to join the military, Derek.
Yeah, the only
her name is Cathay.
Cathay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, I put that on the table to show that I did read a book or two, but you're going to tell us about some real people. Matter of fact, you know some people, some women soldiers from Maryland, don't you?
Yeah, quite a few. Look, the bill to give the 6888, these were the Postal Service delivery unit that went to England, unraveled that mail backlog and mess. No one thought it could be done. Those sisters on the major charity went there, unraveled all that mail, reorganized it, made sure all them guys on the front line in late 44, 45, made sure they got that mail because, morale that's them. That's them, I can tell. That's major charity in our group. Hey, to make sure they got that mail because morale is everything. Everything. And they finally got the bill passed through Congress to give them to give them the Congressional Gold Medal. I think there may be 5 at the most still alive, okay? Maybe 5, okay? And this Congress, yeah.
Mr. Tiger, so what would their ages be? You said it might be 5 or 6 still alive today. I'm curious. So what would they be as far as age?
Most of them would be over 95.
Okay.
Yeah, over 95. And this Congressman Jerry Moran out of Kansas, Republican. Hey man, he took it on like gangbusters, man.
What do you mean?
To get that bill passed. See, our problem as blacks is that we keep playing games with the Democratic Party instead of being black.
Oh, I'm sorry, delegate. You can't.
Whoa, delegate.
You're supposed to be Democrat first, delegate.
Do you know you in a Democratic city? Not 9-1 vote Democratic.
Yeah, and they can kiss my ass too. Hey, look here, man. Let me tell you something. If it were not, look, the 24 years I was in the legislature, I documented every goddamn thing now. I got papers on it all because that's all I do is write. And every time I get angry about some shit, I go write about it. Some of that stuff I don't let loose because it will probably damage the image of some of my good friends, and I'm talking about the most revered of black politicians, right?
Delegate, what happened when you tried to teach black people that we could get money out of them slots? Tell them what you did.
I've got the documentation on that. I chaired the subcommittee that had oversight on slots. Okay. Bobby Ehrlich is elected as governor. In order for him to be successful or have a successful administration, he had to get slots passed. He would give anything to get the slots passed. So I had put it out there to him because I had talked to Stanley Tucker and, some folks in the black business community. And so I say, look, we decided that we would support slots if we get 1.5% of the gross. Now you're talking about 1.5% off the top of 2.4 to 2.5 billion dollars, right? That's well over $30 million annually for 15 years that would go into an economic development fund for minority and small businesses. Now, the rationale behind that is that Ehrlich understood that the banks would not lend black folks money. And his view was that, hey, look, man, the government can't hire these people. You got to have some economic development, business development in the community and stuff like this, pure capitalism thing, right? And so because of his concept and his understanding that banks would not lend black folks money, we could sell this bill to him because he would give anything to get slots passed. And so we had him by the balls, but we did not play that card. Okay. Now, here's how that would work. Once the bill passed, you go to the bond market and access $2 billion for the fund. They're going to give it to you because, number one, you got a guaranteed revenue stream, guaranteed by state government, revenue stream of over $30 million annually for 15 years. The other caveat is that you're loaning the money and making a profit on it, and you're not giving the money away, So it's all business, man. But all we had to do, because there was 42 Republican votes, we got 33 blacks. That's 75. Ehrlich was going to deliver the 42 Republicans. All we had to do was to get the 33 blacks. That's 75 votes. We only needed 71 to pass it.
So you would not have needed white Democrats.
No. And what they did, they tried to make me look like I'm sucking up to Ehrlich. Man, get the like. Why am I gonna get in an argument over which white boy gonna be my master? Whichever one I can get what I need for my folks, that's who I deal with. But they chose, and even some of my very close friends, man. And you ask them about that shit now, they will have amnesia. So, and I can send you the documentation on it. I didn't even know the shit was in the newspaper, man, because I was trying to keep that shit quiet. Because if white folks understood what we was talking about, 1.5% of 2.4 to $5 billion, man, white folks was going to get in the outrage. Them niggas going to get all that money, that kind of thing, right? So we quietly trying to work it, but the press got it. But that is my proof of what we were doing.
So, Tiger, can I ask you? So, just for me, little history lesson. When you said the slot legislation, because I'm interested in the timeline. I'm going somewhere here, but I need to do some more listening. Yeah. When was that? Around what year was that legislation? Because I know Ehrlich was what, 80?
Ehrlich was 2002 to 2006.
Okay.
Now. Okay. Follow me here now. In 1995, Delaware and West Virginia got slots.
Okay.
Right then and there, I knew Maryland was going to have to go. So I'm handling this committee that it had to come through. So immediately I began to work to try to figure out what it is we want. Now, in addition to all that money, here's the other thing that was at stake. We wanted blacks to own one of them goddamn emporiums, man, a slot facility, man. That was one thing. Yeah, we was going to get a piece of all of them, but we wanted blacks to own one. Now, the other piece on that is this. And we had to deal with the racetracks that, hey, if the thing go to the racetracks, we can rebuild the racetracks and turn them into boxing arenas. All of our promoters would get first line because, look, we had them young boxers coming up in the city. We had them old guys like Tank Hill who've been around a long time trying to get a sprout. But then what about the entertainment at those facilities? What about somebody like Rosa Pryor and other promoters? Man, all of that shit was there for us. If the thing was up at Pimlico, all them Caribbean brothers got all them restaurants and all that other shit they do. And white folks who've been to the Caribbean got a taste for that goddamn curry goat. You know what I mean? Man, we had all kinds of shit, man. And you know, I had gone up and met with the people up in the Park Heights and that community and stuff, man. And they was clear on the need for economic development because, you know, you're not going to put a racetrack of slots thing here and not take care of the old community because who going to come there? You know?
And we do have a precedence for that. We need not look further than Atlantic City. You go there, you see the whole lights, camera, action, but everything off of that strip was an absolute mess. I mean,
yes, it was.
Just a mess. So let me ask you this. Because when I do the timeline where I was going to go with you, what my question is, I know the answer, but I would like you to elaborate on it. Well, at least I think I do. Are we still feeling the economic impact from that legislation during that period? Because if you do the math, I would say I don't think the city recovered from that.
From what?
From that legislation in terms of being involved in
you mean
in the gaming industry.
Okay.
And look where it has taken off. Because you talking about in what, 2002?
Yeah.
I mean,
look, here's what happened. Now look, and remember this. Kurt Smoke supported Glendenning because Glendenning was supposed to bring slots, right? If we pass the bill, then the city gonna get a big piece of that money. Okay, because it was the city promoting it, and it would have been developed. The legislation would have had a nice little funding mechanism in there for the city. Now we get the crumbs that fall off the table. Okay, and if you ask, look, well, let me give you an example how our legislators think now. I go down to Annapolis. We're working on this bill to get the funding for the historically Black colleges and university. The state records and their analysts say that the Black schools or historically Black colleges have been shortchanged a little over $2 billion, right? So all they was asking for was not even half that much. Okay, they weren't even asking for half that much. So I go see one of the legislators. I say, look, we don't need to be coming out here like beggars now, okay? Because we've got the votes. Do you know in the House of Delegates you got about 50 Black folks? In the House of Delegates, man, I ain't never seen so many Black folks down there. In terms of Democrats, you got about 50-something Blacks that are Democrats down there. In the House, it only takes 71 votes to pass anything. This is why we got a Black speaker. Okay, and they almost blew that because the brothers and sisters got to fighting over who was going to be speaker. Okay, but the thing is, we've got to get back to who we are as Black people, you know, and we are the folks coming up from slavery in America, and we're still fighting to overcome.
I got a question for you, Tiger. My classmate here, we were in elementary school together at the greatest elementary school in the history of Baltimore.
135?
29.
29. All right.
Named after Matthew Alexander Henson, the first man to reach the North Pole straight out of Calvin.
At least you got some history out of that then, huh?
There you go.
Yes, sir.
But Derick, throughout his lifetime, one of the places he lived early in his life, if I'm not mistaken, did you ever live in Gilmore, Derick?
Yes.
So what is the history of Gilmore projects?
You asking me?
Yes.
Or Derick?
Well,
Because
Doug,
I didn't
Doug,
live
do
in
you know?
West Baltimore. Now, you ask me something about East Baltimore, I'll tell you.
I know that's right.
Well, wasn't Gilmore Homes built for veterans?
I don't know. I don't know that to be true, but chances are it was built because of veterans, at least that much. Okay, because remember, after every war, veterans come home, man, they're raising families, and generally what will happen is housing, there will be housing booms. Okay, because guys coming home, they're gonna be getting married and they're gonna be raising families.
So, well, let me give you this. Let me go to this Black Wall Street. What role did the black veteran play in establishing Black Wall Streets around the country?
Well, I think when you look at it, let me give it to you this way. All of the progress that Black people have made in this country has been because of veterans. Let's take a look at World War II, because these are people Harold Washington,
Chicago.
Congressman, Chicago mayor. You've got Ben Hooks. You got Pam Mitchell. You got Medgar Evers. You got Clarence Blount. You got David Dinkins, one of the first Black Marines, right? Now, I could go on and on about them.
First
okay?
Black man in New York.
Yeah. Then you fast forward, and there ain't much time difference to the Korean War. Korean War, you got Conyers. You got Governor Doug Wilder of Virginia. Doug Wilder, he laughs about being a hero because he gets credit for capturing some North Vietnamese. And he say they came and turned their guns over to him and gave themselves up. They would rather be over here than over there, right? But Doug Wilder and Charlie Rangel, you can go on and on. All of these guys came home, but see, white people feared Black folks coming home from the military.
Why?
Because they knew that those Blacks will have had within them that mindset that they done fought for liberty and freedom, and that they gonna enjoy that shit back here. And that's what white folks feared.
So
this
every
is
time
how Blacks in uniforms were murdered and lynched down south on a regular basis.
Veterans in uniform.
In uniform, lynched. Because white folks down in the South, and they talked about it openly, and they had to keep them in their place because they gonna come home thinking that they didn't earn their rights and freedom and all that other kind of stuff. And then, there are documents all around on that, because white folks openly talked about that. Okay. And so
so I gotta throw this in. World War I was 1914 to 1918.
Yeah, but remember now, we didn't get in there until about 1917 when we started going over there.
No. World War I, I'm gonna make a good point.
Go
1918, 1918. That was the end of World War I.
Mm-hmm.
Tulsa, Oklahoma got burned down in 1921.
Mm-hmm.
After, I just told you, World War I, 1914, 1918. The summer of 1919, they call that Red Summer, right?
Red Summer, yeah.
Now, wasn't that when they had riots, race riots all over the country, right?
Well, you can call them race riots. What you had was white folks terrorizing the Black community. Is what you had.
Many Black soldiers had just come home, right, from World War I.
And that was part of it. All you have to do is look at Elaine, Arkansas. You ever looked that up? Look up Elaine, Arkansas. Massacre, Elaine, Arkansas.
Massacre, Elaine,
Arkansas.
The massacre of Black sharecroppers who gathered at a small church in Elaine, Arkansas, September 30, 1919.
Yeah. See, because these Black men coming home and they going back to them jobs and stuff like this, man. And they weren't going to take that old crap. They knew about unions and stuff then and organizing, man. You see, but look, remember this now. There was about 21 incidents like that. Okay, about 21.
No, that ain't the one.
All right, but now I know, we've talked about Black Wall Street for quite some time, but remember now, you had riots all over the North.
Is that a
I'll
hell of a
tell you
photo?
what, do this. Key in race riots post World War I. Race riots post World War I.
According to
Red Summer.
Red Summer is the period from late
Yeah.
winter through early
That's
autumn
what they
of
called it.
1919,
Yes,
during
they
which
did.
white supremacist terrorism and racial riots took place in more than 3 dozen cities.
3
across the
dozen
United
cities
States,
across the
as well as
country,
in one rural county in Arkansas.
including that rural county in Arkansas, Elaine.
Yeah. See, this was what I was introduced to in 1967 and 68. And this is why I never went to law school, man. I mean, they was buying us to go to law school back then. Duke University, everybody, they had to have some blacks, right? But I couldn't go down there to Duke University, man, because the black students was leaving Duke to go set up the Malcolm X Liberation University, man.
So look at
How can I take a scholarship and go down here and go to Duke, man? I couldn't, and I was busy studying the Black history, so I became part of that Black Studies movement thing, right? In fact, we even took it to Johns Hopkins University. They had 7 black students over there, right? We took over the campus and wouldn't allow white folks in the meeting because we went there in support of Bowie State University. And all the blacks, we caved in on Hopkins campus, man. They ain't never seen so many blacks on Hopkins campus, man.
Daryl Boffman.
Yes, sir. Hey, what's up there, Brother Daryl?
Good evening, sir. Good evening.
All right. Unmute, man. Unmute.
There you go.
There you go. Yeah.
How are you, gentlemen?
Brother Daryl, were you in the military?
I was U.S. Army.
Oh, wow. Okay.
But you couldn't read and write, man, or something?
Oh, man, I was an officer, man.
Hey, bro, you been cracked on my
I gotta hit it
in
with
the
that
Navy.
one, right?
You
What
been
year were
cracked
you
on
in?
the Army. What was you in? What branch were you in, Tiger?
I was in the Air Force, man.
Oh.
We had to pass exams to go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that wasn't the military.
What year were you in, Down?
So I went in right out of college, 1984.
Oh,
and I got out in 88.
Okay.
4 years.
Yeah. My
So guess where he lives? Guess where he lives at, Delegate?
Where?
He lives
Frederick,
in
Maryland.
Huh?
Frederick County, Maryland.
Oh, you're the brother running for office, man. We met
That's
before.
right.
I met you up there. You running for county executive?
That's correct. Yes.
Yeah. Okay, I got you now.
Excellent.
I got you now.
Excellent.
You looked a little different than in real life. Okay. How you coming with that?
It must be that makeup, the camera makeup and all they put on you.
Yeah, how you coming with that, man?
Oh, it's going pretty well. It's going to be a challenge, but it's going pretty well.
Well, look, either way you go, there's nothing like victory. But you done won for black folks already by getting your ass out there. Okay, and that's the honest God truth, man, because hey, you're making people believe. All they got to do is come together, because the truth be told, there are a lot of white folks who would like to see that kind of change.
Mm-hmm.
But the question is, are we ready for that change?
Yeah,
And
believe it or not, I have a lot of moderate Republicans that are supporting me, that would like to see me in the position.
Yeah. Now, are you Democrat or Republican?
I'm Democrat.
Oh, okay.
So, and so I just need to get through the primaries.
All right. Good enough.
Yeah.
All right.
So you said we met?
Huh?
This is former Delegate Tiger Davis.
Yeah, look,
Tiger Davis.
we met up there with Dr. Xavier. Bruce.
Oh, yes.
Like, I just got off a call with him earlier this evening, man. When you called me, Donnie, I was on the line. He was hosting the Zoom meeting, man.
So look here, we got Baltimore, we got Derick down in Prince George's County, and we got Daryl Boffman from Western Maryland. We got half the state covered there, delegate.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And which
and
goes to show.
Derek,
Now look,
I'm sorry.
this is one of the reasons I be telling these young blacks. See, our biggest problem is that our leadership has hustled us and played the race game on us.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now that's what they done because they had to try to be blacker than black or play that race card in order to legitimize themselves. But here's what the deal is. We built this damn country.
We did.
I don't care. Look, we've talked about the military, Revolutionary War, everything else. We have defended this country.
Yeah.
Okay.
We fought in every exchange, every war.
If we looked at science and technology, where did it all come from? We're the ones. We should be considered the fathers of science and technology. The heck with Ben Franklin and that kite thing. Hell, we had Benjamin Banneker all the way up to George Washington Carver and beyond. Man, we built this country, science and technology. All right. Then, if you look at the culture of the country and Western music came from us.
So did rock music.
Bill Bojangles learned to dance. I mean, Fred Astaire learned to dance from Bill Bojangle Robinson.
Yeah, I heard that.
If you look at the democracy, we are the ones who made this country a democracy.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
We're the only ones been fighting for that. So we built this country. And once we come to understand, our real role, then we can take ownership of this country.
Let's hear from Boffman and what's your platform there?
So first off, I'm different, and this is one of the things that they like about me. I'm not coming at them with the same old language about what most politicians come to them. What I'm looking for right now is to make Frederick County more prosperous for people who haven't had the opportunities to be prosperous in Frederick County. And as a result of that, the entire county is going to raise up. So the first thing is education. So when you talk about prosperity, you have to have an education. And so I'm working with the school system to make sure that they're going to be properly funded. But at the same time, I'm going to hold them accountable. I was at a meeting tonight talking about racial equity. I'm sure you've heard that we had 3 middle school students who put pictures on social media with guns saying that we're going to kill some N-word, right? So we had a community forum to talk about that issue. And the thing I said tonight was, we can talk about it till we're blue in the face. We have to start putting some action behind it. And one of the things I said was, listen, we can make change. It's been done. If you don't believe it, look at the Me Too movement. When they started putting people out of their high profile positions and hitting them in the wallet, guess what happened? Things started changing. And so we need to look at this and stop talking about, oh, this shouldn't happen. Oh, that shouldn't happen. We need to start putting some teeth in this thing and hold people accountable. And I mentioned to them, when you have the past president of the United States saying to guys who are on a football field who are taking a knee that they're sons of bees, but in the same sense, guys in Charlotte, rolling over people with cars, and he's saying they're good people on both sides, and guys storming the Capitol and saying that when I become president, I'm going to free them and forgive them. It's like, wait a minute. These kids are watching us. They're watching the leaders of this nation, and they're seeing them call us substandard and subpar and subhuman. And so these kids are feeding off the adults. So if we really want to address the racism issue in this country, we got to start holding adults accountable. When you have all those congressmen and senators listening to these words from this president, and nobody's willing to stand up and say, that's not correct, right? We need to change that language. You shouldn't say that. They're just sitting back and letting him say and do what he wants to do. Well, guess what? These kids are seeing that, and they're like, oh, well, we can say what we want to say and do what we want to do, and nobody's going to do anything to us as long as we're talking about Black people.
Mr. Boffman, can you tell me about agriculture there in Frederick? How is the agriculture? How is your crop production? What's that like? I'm here in Baltimore City. I have absolutely very little understanding of how that works there.
Certainly. So Frederick County was founded on its agriculture. I mean, having a strong agricultural community, having a lot of farms, and supporting the farmers and supporting agriculture. I mean, we have land preservation like no one else in the state. Now, we start with the largest land mass of the state, of any other county in the state, and we're actually preserving that land mass to make sure that we can have agriculture. And agriculture, believe it or not, is big business. I mean, when you think about agriculture, it touches everything. It touches our pharmaceutical products. It touches our healthcare products, the groceries. I mean, everything we do has something to do with agriculture. And so we need to preserve agriculture. And Frederick County has that history. So that's one of the things I've said that, if I am elected, I'm going to make sure we continue to do that. And it's big business. There's technology in agriculture now. They're growing things indoors and being more successful in reducing the amount of time and amount of expenses to grow things indoors that they used to only wait for the sun and the rain to happen outdoors. And so, I mean, there are some great things happening in agriculture, and we need to start talking to some of our students about that because, as I said, there's still big money in agriculture.
I got one other question. I'll pass the ball to Delegate Davis. Tell me about the transportation challenges in your neck of the woods.
Well, as I mentioned already, we have the largest land mass in the state. And with that land mass comes transportation challenges. Now, we have most of the population in certain locations. The city of Frederick, has a large portion of our population. But then if you go all the way out to Brunswick or all the way up to Thurmont or out to Linganore, I mean, it's not as populated. And so there's not as many people taking public transportation. And so, and it costs so much to put enough buses on the road and put them in the routes to go to all these various communities and come back to a centralized point. So we don't really have ample public transportation in Frederick County. Now, there are politicians saying, oh, yes, we're going to make sure we increase the public transportation. Well, the thing that gets me a lot of times when politicians start talking about making all these changes and adding all these programs and so forth, the question is, how are you going to do it? You don't want to raise taxes. You don't want to generate any new type of revenue because it's going to be misconstrued as taxes. You don't have the proper planning for business growth. How are you going to pay for this additional transportation that you're talking about providing to the Frederick community? And that gets me, and it gets my blood curling because that's false. That's politicians. That's not reality. The reality is we have to have a plan. And one of the things that we haven't done well in Frederick County is to develop a business plan. How do we grow our business infrastructure? Who do we want to be when we grow up as a business community? Do we want to be in biotech? Do we want to be in cybersecurity? Do we want to be in IT? If so, we need to start planning now, developing and growing businesses in those areas so that other companies will want to move into Frederick County because they look at us as that hub. I mean, we just recently added a company that's going to put a data center in Adamstown, actually in my backyard. Great. Then someone else came in and wanted to put a data center in, and we lost that opportunity. And I think part of that is because we don't really have a business plan. And I owned a business, Donnie, for many years. And for Clarence's and Derick's knowledge, I had a technology company. And you talked about how we built this country. My business, which had Black engineers, white engineers, Hispanic engineers, female engineers, Asian engineers, the only company in our industry that had that diverse engineering core, we built the first successful multi-carrier DAS infrastructure for the hospitality industry. And we were Marriott's national contractor for designing and deploying these systems. We built systems in buildings as large as 6 million square feet and as tall as 74-story towers. But you know what? You won't learn about me in that area because we don't get the same level of publicity or respect that the others get when they create something that's so great. You couldn't walk into a hotel and use your cell phone until I put the first one in the hospitality industry. So,
well, we want to let you know that you will get exposure here on this show. I defer to Derick and Delegate Davis.
Well, look, once again, I am just elated. I was at a meeting up there when NABVETS was first certified up there, right?
Yeah.
And that's when I met you. I have your business card.
Oh, awesome.
And I was so proud. And listen, but I can't be everywhere. Okay. But I am proud, and whatever I can do with the folks that I know up in that area, I will be doing it. Okay.
I appreciate it. It's time for a change in Frederick County.
Because as long as you're not out there trying to be no black candidate, you want to be the candidate for all the people up there, man.
All the people.
And once we get beyond that race thing, see, the race thing it keeps us viewing ourselves as victims.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And once they have you thinking of yourself as a victim, you are dead in the water. Mm-hmm. And this is why I continually remind people that we built America. Now, get out of that mindset, because you've got a slave mentality when all you can talk about is race.
Mm-hmm.
That's a slave mentality.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about the greatness that is black people, and okay, fine. Eli Whitney invented the cotton gin, but you and I know where he got it from.
Mm-hmm.
Just like this boy over here at Hopkins, the building, Blaylock building named after him, we know that janitor by the name of Vivian was the one
Vivian Thomas, something the Lord made.
That's right. That's right.
HBO.
So we are the fathers of STEM or science and technology in this country. Man, it started with us, and we're still carrying it on.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow they got us thinking that we're inferior to them and that we're victims. I tell people that Dunbar High School was the best damn high school in the country when I was there. Put it on. Dr. Ford taught me Latin, but Dr. Ford was fluent in Hebrew and Greek. Dr. Russell and Dr. Joe Carrington was probably regional superintendent when you was in school. They taught me math. Dr. Brown taught me physics. I could go on and on about the doctors or what have you, but my weakest teacher was probably my history teacher, Yolanda Williams. But then, that's as far as credentials is concerned. But then that was W.B. Du Bois's daughter. And that was my weakest goddamn teacher now, okay?
Wow.
But here's what she did. Being married to County Cullen, she was in all this poetry and all of this thespianism and stuff like this, right? And so she handled what we call the Golden Masculine. We had the best actors in the damn country on the Dunbar stage, man. I'm telling you. So when we talk, we had the best teachers because they couldn't go nowhere else. Where was they gonna get a job?
Doug, you got a question for Daryl Boffman?
Who, me? No,
my question. Good evening, Councilman Mitchell. I see you came on as well. Just want to make sure I speak.
Hey, good evening, guys.
One of the questions I wanted to ask when you talked about the education and improving the education, I'm always curious as to an area like Frederick, where you say agriculture is, one of the primary businesses and one of the things y'all been able to lend to the state and surrounding states through the history, and probably abroad. Does the educational system in Frederick feed that? Do they have like magnet high schools that have that agricultural lesson plan to it, that you can actually have your citizens, coming up in that industry like that? Because most of my friends and constituents that live in Frederick come to DC to work. Every day they make that commute. Mm-hmm. So I was just wondering, what's your position on that?
Yeah, so agriculture is throughout the school system. It's not at any particular high school. All of the schools are involved with agriculture. As a matter of fact, we have what we call Fair Day up in Frederick County, where we shut down schools so that the children can go to the fairs and participate in the working with the animals or with the growing the crops and submitting their own vegetation and so forth to try to receive awards. But yeah, and there are a lot of businesses and farms and people who have been a part of agriculture for many years that are working with the students on a regular basis. I mean, we even have composting in our schools. I'm not sure if you have that anywhere else in the state of Maryland. But yeah, we definitely have agriculture as a focal point within our educational system.
Thank you. Excellent.
You're welcome.
I would say we started
We've been
composting down
joined
the road.
by Councilman Martin Mitchell. Derick, this is your neighbor. He's there in gorgeous Prince George's County.
Yes, absolutely. From
I
Georgia.
gave him a shout out soon as he got on, Dottie.
I appreciate that. Always showing us love. You know, it doesn't have to be enemies between Baltimore and DC, right? Like we could all get along.
Indeed. Indeed.
But I heard Daryl talk about the composting. There is some composting at Laurel going on. I know Laurel Elementary has 100% composting, and they just also started the program at Laurel High School. So there's some more composting going on. Just shouting out those public schools doing some great things.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yes.
So Councilman, it's a pleasure meeting you. So how long have you been a councilman?
Brand spanking new.
Okay.
Yeah, brand. So I mean, in November I won the election. You know, even though I'm new, you know, I'm not new to like, you know, government and public administration. So, you know, I was doing the work long before I put my name on the ballot.
Yeah. So what made you decide to run?
What made me decide to run? You know, I want to say that it was predestined, right? So I didn't know 2, 3, 4 years ago I was going to run. I just knew that I wanted to be, you know, involved in public service.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, as I started leading with like the young Dems and started getting more involved, I remember a professor at Bowie told me, Martin, you have the capacity to lead, but if you don't lead, don't be upset when you're led by a lesser person. You know, so right from that moment, you know, I started, you know, right from that moment, I started starting organizations at Bowie and started organizing. I remember I got Ben Jealous to come to campus, you know, and that was big for me at the time. So, you know, that's really why I started. And then I also figure, what better place to start than your hometown? This is the place that I grew up. I've seen it change from majority white to majority black.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like Prince George's County in itself, right? But the thought is like, you know, what better place to start locally than your hometown? And I have twin 5-year-olds, so you know, I definitely want to set an example and blaze the trail for them. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, hats off to you, man, for starting so young and making such an impact in your community. That is awesome. And I hope you're talking to a lot of other young people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That definitely talking to a lot of young people, and you know, basically my campaign helped young people realize, like, you know, like how close you are to politics. Because some people believe that they're so far away from politics and they're disillusioned, you know. So like when they worked on the campaign, they saw people come to me with like everyday issues, and you know, me connect them with their resources. Because the thing is a lot of times I'm just an intermediary, right? So I'm connecting people with their resources that they need, or they might not even know about. So, you know, from that aspect, I've had friends now who are actually moving into politics or more involved in politics because they just had that experience on the campaign, and they were like, wow, you actually can change lives through, like, you know, good public policy, good governance, you know, so yeah.
That's big. That's big.
Why they call you the cannabis councilman?
The cannabis councilman. So they call me the cannabis councilman because one, I'm a medical patient, cannabis patient, but two, a lot of my advocacy started around cannabis because, you know, for me, you know, I'm 31 now, but, you know, I remember 10 years ago, maybe 12, you know, in my city of Laurel, you know, being pulled over 100 times before I was the age of 25, right? Every time they pulled me over, you know, they were trying to hem me up on, you know, little weed flakes, right? And the smell of marijuana. And, you know, as you know, I continued to get older, I said to myself, imagine if I can get paid to talk about cannabis, right? And 5 years later, the opportunity came. You know, then I was lobbying on behalf of cannabis. But, you know, long before that, I realized that, you know, cannabis is a cash crop. We're just not taking advantage of it, right? And not just cannabis, you know, hemp. More importantly, hemp, because hemp has 1,000+ uses. You know, so with that being said, you know, that's why I'm the cannabis councilman. I don't just want people to be able to do it responsibly for adult use. You know, I also want to make sure we bring home brothers and sisters who are spending time behind bars for cannabis related offenses. I want to make sure that we, empower the community that has been most impacted, financially, right? So, those are some of the things that I want to do, and I want to make sure that we codify that special that court of special appeals decision and extend it to your vehicle, because the thought is the court decision now is there's no probable cause for the officer to search your person for the smell of marijuana, but it's not extended to the vehicles. So, I would love for it to go to the vehicles as well, because we know that police officers use that as a tool. If I can't smell it, then they'll go to the paraphernalia. Maybe I'll try to see it in plain sight. So the thought is they're going to just continue to use the tool. So, yeah, that those are some of the things that I want to do, and that's why I'm the cannabis councilman. But yeah. Yes, Tiger. All I saw was a fist bump. You're muted, so I didn't get to hear you. But who's it? Oh, Donnie, you muted too.
You got to unmute yourself.
Okay,
Right?
yeah, now I've unmuted. But look, let me run this to you. I put a bill in, and I got the first bill passed on hemp in the state of Maryland. It was a tough bill back around 2000. Okay. We were, I was trying to offer that as an alternative to the tobacco industry, because the tobacco industry, man, per acre, if you look at the amount of money they made per acre as compared to corn, hey, I'm growing tobacco. Well, you could grow hemp and use that to replace your tobacco crops. And that's how we looked at it back then, because when you talk about all the multiple uses, whether you make it clothing or ropes or whatever out of hemp, it had so many uses, to include medical uses or what have you, right? Yeah. And, people like black legislators saw it as a joke, because most of your elected officials that were black, they had nothing original about them, other than they could talk about race, or they could go along with whatever the white boy say, or the white girl, or what have you. Just like, for instance, that's what screwed up our whole damn community with regards to parental rights and stuff like this. How the hell can, your daughter at 13 years of age go have an abortion without the father or parents knowing about it? That don't make no sense. I couldn't even, my son was in the military, and I couldn't even take his daughter to the doctor at Wyman Park to get medical services. But yet that same daughter could go in there, or granddaughter could go in there and have an abortion, and nobody know about it. And I gave them some practical experiences that I had with kids in the ghetto. For instance, little girl coming to my office, man, she's like turning white, man, and I said, well, what's the problem? And then she started finally broken. She said, well, I've been hemorrhaging. I said, well, what's the matter? Why didn't you go to the doctor? Well, I went to Planned Parenthood, she had an abortion. Okay. And I said, well, you go talk to your mother. Well, she been fussing at me all the time about missing school, and I just been sick and blah, blah, this and that. I say, you got to go to your mother. And then so she said, will you go with me? I said, yeah. So we go around there, and when the girl tells the mother that she had been pregnant, and then the mother, all she could do was to hug her and say, why didn't you tell me? Look, all parents fuss at their kids as a deterrent for them getting into trouble. But once they get into the trouble, then the parents generally will wrap their arms around them, to try to help them overcome. But it became such a joke with them taking away all the parental rights and stuff like this, all these supposed to be child advocates. So I say, well, look, why are you against this notification? Well, parents will brutalize their children. Well, what percentage are we talking about? 1/10 or 1%? And you gonna change the relationship between parents and children to try to protect 1/10 of 1%? That don't make no sense. So whenever those youth groups or protection groups came, I always made a little joke, because I always saw them as a joke, and I would say something like, well, I was in the court the other day, and because I had this altercation, and the judge wanted to know why I hit that kid with the baseball bat. Everybody lean forward, and then I say, my gun jam. You know? Hey,
Tiger,
look,
you hit it
but they
spot
were
on.
a joke, man. But believe it or not, I'll because they're supposed to be enlightened, our legislators go along with them. How the hell can the issue of teen pregnancy get trapped into Planned Parenthood? Huh? It don't make no sense.
Especially when people, this is Women's History Month. You can't mention Planned Parenthood and not mention Margaret Sanger. She said that black people were like weeds and needed to be exterminated. So, Daryl Boffman, you've been quiet. You've been listening in on the discussion. Any thoughts? You got to unmute yourself.
Oh, unmute. Okay.
So I agree with Clarence, the fact that, you know, these children have more rights than the parents do. And it's whether it's dealing with abortion or anything else. I mean, society has set it up so that the government can take whatever steps they need to take to raise our children, but they've removed our ability to raise our children. I mean, and I've said this to my kids, you know, many times before. I'm going to do what I need to do as your parent to make sure you're successful. Because if I don't do what I'm supposed to do, they're going to lock you up in a cell. They may even shoot you on the street, or they'll put something in your vein to take your life away. I'm not letting that happen to my child. So I'm raising my child based on what I know is necessary. And so fortunately for me, you know, knock on wood, I mean, I haven't had and I have 3 girls and 3 boys, just so y'all know. And I haven't had that teen pregnancy situation because, Clarence, I really believe and you talked about the parent, if you communicate with your children on a regular basis, and this was one thing, we were one of those families that sat around the dinner table and talked. We went on vacation together as a family, just us, and we talked and we had a great time. And the key is to balance the discipline with the love. You can't just discipline your children and expect them to come to you and share their life situations. And you can't just be one of those parents that all this love and no discipline, because then they're going to run all over you. And so that's the key. If we do what we're supposed to do as parents, and we love and discipline our children, then we don't have to worry about society trying to raise them. But in the same sense, like you said, they set these laws that take the rights away from the parents. Because I would have wanted to be able to talk to my child before they go off and have an abortion and take away my chances of having a grandchild. You know.
So Derek, we got 3. You got Councilman. He's new into politics relative to Tiger Davis. You know, he's coaching at this from his vantage point. And then we got Daryl Boffman running for position in Frederick. A lot to unpack here. Any thoughts, Derek?
Well, my first thought is,
and I forgot to mention you're in education, so I'm sure you.
Well, yeah. My first thought is, and I say this with all sincerity, it appears we're in good hands because the politician, as I came up with it, looked like, what it's supposed to sound like, how it's supposed to present itself. That's starting to look different, and that's very exciting to me. And I must express that to you, gentlemen. The challenges here, you're great. I think we're in a moment right now in our country. Me and Donnie has talked about this in the past about me going off the rails. One of the things I've gotten to great debate, me and Donnie and our friends that we've come up with, is I think we're going to look back. And I think one of the things that, because you referenced Trump earlier, Mr. Boffman, one of the things I think we'll look back and I think he's going to be one of the most influential presidents in terms of how he affected change. One thing, and I'm not a Trump supporter, let me please clarify that. But one of the things he did, he revealed that real, what I would say, ugly truth that's been the elephant in the room that we have become accustomed to being comfortable with. And what Trump has done is make us really, really accept who we are as a country. I think we have become more involved in the voting process. I was amazed when I started doing some research on some of the elected officials who weren't even present to vote for significant bills and legislatures that shape our communities in the state.
Yeah.
So I think we have a much more engaged constituency now that's really paying attention. The next level for us as a community, for me, is that we have the accountability that we always touched on earlier. And what I mean accountability is, I think, as an average citizen, I understand that your vision may to check all 10 boxes. I know that's not a reality in the political arena, but I think if your signature commitment to your community, if you can't meet that signature commitment for Councilman Mitchell, there's a lot of people who may have voted because of the position on cannabis. Some people that's very uncomfortable, but for a lot of in our community, that's a very, very, very sensitive thing.
Sure.
And especially for our brothers and sisters who's been incarcerated.
Of course.
I mean, that's just ridiculous at this point.
Of course.
I encourage that we keep pushing. We do have accountability, that you stay connected to the constituency, meaning don't get to a point that, once you start operating in the political arena, that you forget that, that guy, that you still make yourself available to that guy. Like you said this evening, Mr. Boffman, you was at a community event this evening. You gotta be accessible to that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or that girl. I don't want to make it sexist, but just your consistency. So,
Martin Mitchell, you also host a show here on this network. You want to put a plug in for your show?
Every Sunday, 9 a.m. People Over Politics. I was grateful to be offered, a slot. So we're trying to do the best we can, right? Hopefully you can check us out, and I want to get you some of you guys on as guests. Definitely Tiger. Tiger, one of the things you said earlier was just about the changing in parenting. And I had a conversation with my friend earlier. I said, I remember in second grade when I acted up, my mom came to school and beat me at school. You know what I mean? I said, I remember that. And I remember that, like, I was straightened up. I remember it straightened me right up, right? And I was just saying, if I did that nowadays, I'd be in handcuffs, right? But that's still, some people should still keep that, input, because you got to put the hands on your kids sometimes. I'm not, sometimes you got it. Sometimes you got it.
Councilman, real quick, one of the things Donnie and I talked about last night was the real impact, and I'm speaking from my youth, the real impact that community recreation centers had on youth. I think one of the things that, if I really be honest about how I was shaped coming up, and Donnie, because we came up together, I know how it was shaped. Experience was that it wasn't solely my parents. And I need to say that it really, really wasn't solely my parents that are responsible. I mean, my foundation, who I am, of course, without saying, but I was impacted and had the respect and fear of my rec center leaders just as much as I did my parents at home. So one of the things I think that our community has been affected, in my opinion, in a very large way that sometimes gets dismissed, is the impact that recreation centers, rec centers have on communities. When I came up, rec centers was like going to the market. It was that impactful. I mean, the death penalty for me back then was when the rec leader said, Derick, you're suspended here because your behavior, or I heard you showed off in school and you can't come to the rec. That was devastating for me. And our kids don't have that that link. It's like an all or nothing proposition. If they're fortunate enough to have great parents, then the odds are with them. But if not, if they don't have that sense of community that can surround our youth, and a lot of our youth need that, I think our problems will still persist, if I'm making any sense to you, Jenna.
I just want to pose one last question to the panel. And Tiger, don't get bored. We'll start with you. I hear all of this news about Black people in the Ukraine who were not allowed to leave as the bombing was happening. Black people in the Ukraine who were not allowed to leave as others were. Every time I cut on the news, at war, Russia, Ukraine. But there are wars in other parts of the world, including Africa. And I don't see the same kind of.
I mean, your screen froze on you, Donnie.
It's probably feed.
Let me just chime in right here. Your screen froze on you, Donnie. Let's look at it from this perspective, okay? Look, the United States told lies about some yellow cake and went into Iraq and bombed the hell out of Iraq to change the government, okay? They sit right on the border of Russia. This used to be part of their thing, okay? They got more rights to want to control that, because if that becomes NATO, then Russia got NATO right on its borders.
Just
so I
like,
understand
just
where
like
they're
Russia
coming
and Cuba.
from. But
Just like-
still, now I can understand where they're coming from, even though from our perspective here, hey, they're telling lies, man, and they destroying that damn country, and that's a shame, you know. But then those are European Russians that's destroying other European Russians, okay? Now, but no one raised one iota of concern when we were bombing the hell out of Iraq. And really, did we have to go into Afghanistan? Did we? To go get Osama bin Laden? Did we have to go pull that drug raid down in Panama to get Noriega, where we killed thousands of poor people down there? Come on now. What we're talking about is big countries riding roughshod over countries who do not have the same military might as they. Okay? Russia and the United States, both of them have done the same things, you know, and if we don't see that, because look, anytime Israel get ready, they will go into Lebanon or wherever they want to and bomb the hell out of it. They go into Iran and bomb Iran's nuclear development center. You know, it's almost like certain parts of Europe can do whatever they want to anybody, anywhere in the world. Okay? Russia beginning to see that they're doing the same thing. You know, they did it in
Crimea. Get in there, Tiger, is how, you know, the Haitians at the border got whipped by people on horseback. And so the broader question is, why when Black people are in these refugee situations, we get treated differently?
Well, you know, they should have been treated differently, because they should have been treated better, because they were guests there. They were students there. What? And they should have been automatically given exit visas or what have you, instead of the kind of rough treatment that they got. Because look, this is just the way it is in the European world and how they perceive everybody else. Okay, that's a sickness that exists in Europe, man.
Yeah, I would say that Black people get the short end of the stick everywhere. So that wasn't a surprise. And for me as a Black man, I didn't want to go to Russia before, You know what I mean? Like I knew that, you know, how they were, you know, for black people. So at the end of the day, I'm not surprised. I was not surprised in any way, shape, or form.
Well, let me give you a little information for those who may not know. The father of Russian literature was a black man named Alexander Sergeyevich Pushkin.
Pushkin, yes, sir.
I want to remind us that blacks, Moors, were royalty across Europe, in every European nation. The Moors, beginning in Spain. So blacks in Europe have a long history. Is that correct, Delegate?
Absolutely. In fact, look, all the way up to just about Columbus, the Moors ran Spain.
That's when the transatlantic slave trade started.
Yeah.
And so that helps me to know that the Moors were traveling the world before the transatlantic slave trade. But anyway, Daryl Boffman, any final thoughts?
Well, I think there is a war happening here. And I don't think the attention is on the war that's happening here that it needs to be. You know, it was funny how when Ukraine needed money and materials and supplies and food and everything, you know, we jumped through the hoops to send the food and the supplies and all to Ukraine.
Yeah, Johns Hopkins just sent them $4 million. I was like, damn, you could have sent that to East Baltimore.
We have communities in our own country where people are hungry and needing supplies.
Charity started home.
And need to help survival. And all of a sudden, we can't afford to do that. But, you know, and I hate to say this, but people have become desensitized to Black death. It doesn't have the value that other deaths have, whether it's in Europe, in the United States, or Africa. When they hear or see of a Black person dying, the impact on them emotionally is totally different than when they see a white person die. I mean, you can see on television here a young child, 4 years old, get hit with a stray bullet, and you don't see the care and concern that you find with a grown white man getting shot over in Ukraine.
Well, I want to tell you, dogs get better love in America than Black people. I remember when Hurricane Katrina happened, they put those dogs on a coach bus. Dirk, you remember that? They put the dogs on a coach bus to get them out the flood zone.
Absolutely.
Well, I'll give you one bigger than that. Michael Vick wasn't even present when dogs were fighting, and he got locked up.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
And that's all the more reason why we have to become unified, because I think one of the things that's been bankable by other cultures, other demographics, is our lack of being unified. And that's just been a bankable thing. Our lack of being vested in vote. Like you said, there's a war going on.
It is.
Right now. I mean, if you look at the redistricting with the voting rights, I mean, it's some stuff going on, and it's all predicated on one day they look up and we are amassing power now. So we're in a different battle now. See, we got Councilman Martin Mitchell, we got Bob, and we got Tiger. We are amassing power unlike we ever had in the history of this country. First, we was just residents, and one day they look up, and I believe they realize we are starting to accumulate power where we can shape and make decisions and change the trajectory. We just got to keep pushing.
Councilman Mitchell, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Sheesh, you put me on the spot. Keep pushing. That was the last thing said. Yes, keep pushing. And of course, we're gonna move boulders together with collective power. So yeah, that's all I got for you. See you next time.
And your show is on Sunday mornings?
Sunday at 9 a.m. People Over Politics.
Can't wait to tune in, my friend.
And Mr. Boffman, you may want to get on his show. This cat has a mean network. Last time I checked, had about 120 shares on a Sunday morning. Tiger Davis, bring it on home for us, Papa. Thank you. Let me just say thank you, Delegate, for number one. Just like my main man, Marion Barry, you always answer the phone. You always give me access. You always answer questions. When you were teaching up in Morgan State University, you would take my calls, and I remember them little college girls be all up in your face, be like, hold up, this is my man. I got to find out what he needs. But thank you for being there for me. Thank you for supporting my businesses in the times that I've known you. And thank you for being a wonderful Dunbar poet, full of history. And we defer the final thoughts to you.
Well, first of all, we've got to understand that we have to become masters of our own destiny. And there's no place in this world like America. I mean, you can say you want to go be somewhere else, but go. But look, this is it. And we got to make our stand right here. And we've got to make this democracy work for everybody. Because when we make it work for everybody, we're the ones who benefit. And that's my final thought on it. God bless America. Amen.
My name's Donnie Glover. I am Black Wall Street. Derick Boyd, you want to say goodbye, buddy?
It's been a true honor and a privilege to be amongst you gentlemen this evening. Safe travels, and I will be trending and following you and trolling all of you.
Del Bachman, how can people support you? How can they get in touch with you and support your campaign for county executive of Frederick?
Yeah, so you can reach me on my website at friendsofdboffman.com. I also have a Facebook page and Instagram under the same name, Friends of D. Boffman. But you gentlemen can also call me, especially Councilman Mitchell, if you want to invite me as a guest. You can call me at 301-639-7453.
One more time, nice and slow.
301-639-7453. Or you can email me at dboffman@gmail.com.
My name's Donnie Glover, and we'll be back on the air at 9 a.m. Let's get his information. There you go. Friends of D. Boffman, 301-639-7453, dboffman@gmail.com. Gentlemen, praise the Lord. Traveling mercy, stay safe. We've lost a lot of people out here, so our hearts and prayers. You know, Derick's lost people. Everybody's losing people, but thank God that we're still here. And I love you all. I thank you for being in my life and allowing me to be in yours.
Thank you.
God bless. And check your email. I'm trying to find something for you, Donnie.
Yes, big brother. Good evening, America.